First of all, Black men don't ask for help enough.
No.
And don't seek it.
No.
And there's something like it seems masculine to be stoic and to keep all that in when it is destructive internally.
It is.
More than diet, stressors are what shorten
and
life.
Not even for them individually, but for their community, for their families, for their relationships.
Yes. Yeah, for the health of families.
Yes.
But then you get to the point that Black men who want to reach out, finding mental health supports. Every town hall, people brought up mental health crises and how hard it was for them to find health. And so when you defund Medicaid, when you defund the Affordable Care Act, and you make healthcare in general more hard to get, you put people who might even want to reach out and get mental health care, you make it something that only the wealthy can afford.
Welcome to At Our Table. I'm your host, Jaime Harrison. Today's guest is not just a colleague, not just a United States Senator. He's my brother. I first met Cory Booker when I was 19 years old, a student at Yale University, trying to figure out who I was and whether I truly belonged. Cory was already at Yale Law School, but even then, he made time. He listened. He treated a 19-year-old kid like his voice mattered. And that stays with you. Over the years, that same spirit followed him everywhere. When I launched my U.S. Senate campaign here in South Carolina, Cory didn't just send a note. He came. He stood with me. And when he was running for president on the biggest debate stage in the country, he took a moment, unprompted, to lift up my campaign. That's who he's always been. Recently, the country watched Cory stand on the Senate floor for hours in a filibuster. Not for headlines, but because he believes this democracy is still worth fighting for. And in the midst of that public fight, Cory stepped into a deeply personal season of joy, marriage, partnership, and love. So today, we're going to talk about the full arc, where this journey began, what love has taught him, how frustration turns into action, and what it means to keep standing when it would be easier to sit down. Senator Cory Booker, my brother, welcome to our table.
I want to rebuttal on that introduction. So first of all, I thought it was hilarious. We were at an event today and you gave me a generous introduction. And I said, oh yeah, I've known Jaime since he had an afro. And then you took off your hat and the crowd just laughed.
I before this, I told my wife, I should really like shave my head again because when it's partial, it makes me look older.
Same here. I look like George Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm knocking on, in just a few weeks, I will turn 50, which is just weird, Cory.
It is a big birthday.
It is a big birthday. And I honestly feel as if I just graduated from college a few years ago.
Yeah, same here. The second rebuttal I have to your introduction is I was happy that I came to your launch of your campaign, but it was hot.
It was
hot. Yes.
It was really, really hot.
It was one of those days I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't know it could get this hot.
Well, that's the thing. You can get sometimes extremes in South Carolina.
Yes.
We get more of the really, really hot days than the really cold ones. But, I don't know what it is about MLK Day, though. It gets pretty chilly here every MLK.
The last time I was down here on MLK Day was 2019. It was bitterly cold.
And you did not bring a jacket.
I did not.
You
learned. I thought South Carolina. I learned my lesson this time.
Well, it's good to have you back here in South Carolina.
It's not good. It's great. First of all, I know your podcast viewers already know this, but you're like an amazing leader with an incredible career so far, but God ain't finished with you yet. Oh. I'm happy you're doing this, and I'm hoping we can get into some good conversation today.
Yeah, same here,
But this is where my defenses are down because you're such a good friend. I'm going to forget that this is a podcast, and I'm going to start opening up on stuff.
And that's what you're supposed to do. At our table, you're supposed to open up and just talk.
Okay.
But man, the first thing we have to talk about, before we talk about politics, I want to start with love.
Yeah.
As your brother, when you sent me that message, and pretty much it was like, I think I've met the one.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about Miss Alexis, the love of your life. I know it must be weird.
It's still, you're still feeling it.
Yes. The first few months of having that on, you find yourself just like playing with it.
I'm playing with it a lot.
Yes.
I'm still in the play with it phase.
Yeah.
I'm still on the honeymoon stage because we just got back a few weeks ago from our honeymoon. But look, it's answered prayer. People said you must have waited for the right person. I said, no, I actually think I became the right person for her to be worthy of her. And when we were set up on a blind date, it was amazing. And I was grumpy and I'd become cynical.
Yep.
And, but when she walked in the room, I felt like I got hit with a 2x4. And then I was nervous. And when I'm nervous, unfortunately, I just talk a lot.
You talk a lot.
So she's like, yeah, he didn't shut up on our first date, but I gave him another chance anyway.
When did you know it was different? Was it from the day one?
So my friends make fun of me that I will get excited about somebody and then we'll go away on a vacation together. And it's like the travel test. I don't know what it's always been, but I always seem to come back from vacation saying, I don't think this is the one. So a lot of my friends were not taking it even seriously until she and I went on a week-long trip together to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I was like, that's when I thought, okay, this is going all the way.
Yeah. I had, it wasn't a trip, but it was something similar. So Marie and I met, I remember clearly. Our first date was in Alexandria, Old Town. I think it was a restaurant called Vermilion. Right before Thanksgiving. It was in 2008. Obama got elected in 2008, right?
Yeah,
2008.
yeah.
And so we kind of laughed and bonded over Thanksgiving and having family members who really can't cook but try to cook and all that stuff, and that we were both going home. And then so Obama won. We had inauguration. And so in DC, I had this week long of events. Every night there was an event. And so I asked her, I said, do you want to go to inauguration events? She said, oh yeah, I would like to. She didn't realize I was talking about every single night.
Wow.
And for a guy, for us, it's easy, right?
Yes.
We just wear a tuxedo and it's the same tux or whatever.
Yeah.
But for a woman, it is, she wants to wear a different evening gown or, cocktail dress every night, and she got through that week.
Yes. And it's hair and makeup too, which we don't have to worry about.
She got through that week, and I remember I told my mom, I said, I think I met the one.
Wow.
Because we had such a wonderful time, and she didn't grumble
so
about.
Tell me your proposal story.
Well, Cory, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan.
Yes.
So
well, first of all, I just want you to know, I have the fondest memories of you in the basement of that Pearson College. We were listening to Prince with Nichelle.
Yes. So, NYJB, shout out to you because we love you.
Yes, big time. Big time. So, but I do know you're a big Michael Jackson fan, so tell me that.
And so this was the year of Michael Jackson's last concert. He was going to do This Is It.
Yes.
And so Marie and I were dating at the time. And unbeknownst to me, you had to sign up online in order to get the Michael Jackson tickets. Well, unbeknownst to me, Marie signed up. And, the next day she said, oh, I got a surprise for you. I said, wait. She's like, I got us 2 tickets to Michael Jackson because it was supposed to be This Is It in London.
Yes.
And that's when I knew.
Okay.
I just knew it was special. So we had planned this big trip for us to go to London.
No.
And then, of course, Michael passed away. So we decided we'll still go to London, because we had planned this trip out. We were still going to London, but we would add in maybe like we go to Paris or something as well. We'd take the train to go to Paris, and so she let me do all the planning. Well, I knew that I wanted to propose at this time, right? And I knew that I knew that this was it. So we get to Dulles. I added a special little spot because,
and she has no idea.
She has no idea. She just leaves, and still today, like when we have a trip, she leaves the planning to me. Right, I do the planning for the trip. So her favorite movie is Under the Tuscan Sun. A little cheesy, but it's her favorite movie. She loves it, and so she loves Italy. I love Italy. So I secretly planned a trip for us to fly to Florence first. She had no idea. So we get to Dulles Airport and we're standing in line, and she's like, aren't we going to London? Why are we standing in line to go to Florence, Italy? I was like, surprise. I added a surprise trip. I knew you like, Italy, and I love Italy. So we just go there. And she's a little suspicious. She's like, okay. She was like, that's great. I love it. So we get there, and while we're on the plane, she's talking about, well, what do you think about marriage and this? And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that and this
Oh,
and
that's
that. So I'm
great.
like trying to talk it down. Yeah, I'm trying to talk it down. So apparently she really thought that I really did not want to get married. So anyway, later on that night, we get to Florence. We're there. I had set this thing up where the Piazza di Michelangelo, I'm sure you've been there. And there's a restaurant on the top, and I had like the little string quartet or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And so we get to the restaurant that night, and they come out, and I get down on one knee and I propose. And
what was her reaction?
Shocked.
Because
I had been talking down of getting married the entire time. But
I love the
surprise.
Amazing.
Yes.
I think it's
surprise.
like
she hates surprises. But
really. But I just love that. And as somebody told me after I proposed that it's like that's the last major life decision you will make fully on your own.
That's true.
Yes.
So how did you propose?
I'm like you. I'm a big romantic.
Yes.
So I wanted to do something spectacular. I wanted to shock her.
Yep.
And so I did the same thing, misdirection. Like, I knew. We moved in together in April.
Yeah.
And I just said to her, I'm writing a book that's coming out in about a month called Stand. And I was in the middle of writing it. And she's like, maybe we should talk about getting married. I go, I need to finish this book and we're not going to do it. But we're going to Hawaii. I go, it's a beautiful place, but honey, I am so stressed out. You're going to enjoy the beach. I'm going to be writing.
Yeah.
And so we go to Hawaii, but we're staying at a friend of mine's house. And I have my friend reach out to her and say, we want to surprise Cory when he lands with a traditional Hawaiian greeting, with the ukulele and the dances. And so she thinks, we'll surprise him when he lands and we'll get him the lace and all that. So she thinks she's planning a surprise for me,
you.
But I am working to plan a surprise for her. So like they call her up, why don't we get a private chef for you one night while you're there? And she's like, oh, that's a great idea. But really I'm behind the scenes trying to land the private, just getting everything set up. So we land, she's like, he, I think I got him. And she goes in to the house, and the house manager calls her, okay, let's get Cory downstairs in about, 20 minutes or whatever. So we dress, get downstairs, and surprise, I get lace put on me, and she has no clue. We walk out, and there's a videographer there, taking pictures and everything that. And she thinks this is just part of my friend wanting to capture my reaction to, but I had hired dancers to come out.
Wow, Cory.
Now, she had told me since her early date that Mariah Carey's song Dream Lover was something that she wanted at her wedding one day.
Yep.
And so I found two performers that performed that song in Hawaii to come out. So while the ukulele and the Polynesian dancers going on, these other two dancers come up and singers and start singing her song. And she's like, what's this?
Why are they?
Yes, but she's just going along with it, thinking it's all part of my friend's surprise for me. And so as soon as the performance finished, she sprints over to them, hugs them. I go, this is like one of my favorite songs. I really want this song to play at my wedding. And I tap her on her shoulder and I go, honey, it's a song playing at your proposal.
Oh,
and she said she blacks out at that point. She didn't even remember me getting on the knees. And and then literally like a week later, because we stayed there from one weekend to another weekend, I flew. I got her friends to fly out, her close friends from Los Angeles. So that was a second surprise.
Man.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. And I'm sure your mom was just beaming when she heard.
I am telling you, the magic and the joy from proposal all the way through to the courthouse wedding we had in Newark, to the small family thing we had in DC.
Yeah.
It was just like joy multiplied, and the magic of every experience. God, you have these big events, or even not big events, like New Year's Eve often doesn't live up to the hype, your 30th birthday or 21st birthday. But this was something that so exceeded every event, including the engagement.
Tell me, so, folks know Cory Booker, the senator. They know Cory Booker, the mayor. Talk about Cory Booker, who's now the husband of Alexis.
Look, there's a lot of maturing goes for guys especially. And I learned early on, like the word decision comes from that root word, D and then incision. Incision is to cut in, but decision is to cut off. And, you say that this is my choice. It's a very powerful thing. I choose you as my partner. And I think that I got to the point where I realized how that's not losing all the other things you don't do. it is not only cutting off all these other things, but it's actually opening up a whole new universe. So I feel like in my personal life, I was playing at the low stakes table.
Yeah.
And just what Alexis has done, my marriage has done, is taken me so much deeper. I feel like have such a richer life, more whole. I feel like that when you go deep as opposed to go broad,
Yep.
you just kind of have layers and layers of discovery all the time. And so it's a richness I've just never had in my life before. And it has actually made me a better senator. I mean, I would come home at night in DC just like, with briefing documents and eating bad food, maybe streaming something bad at too late. And it was just like, I look back on that now and say, look at all that I've missed. Having a partner, having a wife, having a friend, having somebody that is, we were joking today because we're each other's accountability partners too, to pray with and to write down your spiritual goals, your physical. It's just amazing. So from April to the engagement, to the wedding, honeymoon in December, I just can't. It just gets better and better, and so I feel very, very blessed.
Well, and I don't know if she really gets into politics. And my wife Marie is not she's smart as hell, but she's not really a political person. But the amazing thing for me is because politics is has been my life, and she keeps me grounded.
Yeah,
in such a way to just make me remember what's really important.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if Alexis is really
Well, there's something powerful about like, I've got this big hearing on the FBI or take out the trash.
Can you wash those dishes?
Yeah. There's this old great Eastern saying that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. But in many ways, it's the routines of life. It's the little things that ground you. And it's like the ballast as our ship of life goes on.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again, man. I could not be more happy for you.
Thank you.
Because I know how happy I am.
Did marriage change? It did change. So the answer is yes. But how did marriage change when you have children?
Well, it's changed a lot because then the focus is almost exclusively on them.
Yeah.
And we have to often remind ourselves to save some time for us, though.
Well, what advice would you give to guys?
Yes.
Because especially women are so centered in their as a mother of a child who brings that child into a world, and your role is not the same.
No, it's not. Well, and you also recognize that you are going to be second fiddle. So just understand, to the kid's eyes, mom is always like, I mean, my youngest, he said something to my wife once. He said, he was like just near her and sniffing on her. And she's like, why are you sniffing me? And she said, because mommy, you smell like all of my favorite things.
Oh,
he's straight sugar. Oh. Now the other one, but I mean, they love their mom, and their mom is really, really important. But there's also something very special about dad too, right? And so I think it's important just to play your role, but to be there, to be support. One of the things, particularly for those of us involved in politics, because politics can be all consuming, is to understand just like there's such tremendous weight that the other partner has to carry, particularly when you have kids.
Yeah.
And so to find those moments where you can carry that weight, where they don't have to ask you to do certain things, you just you more intuitively just do it, because even the small things, it means so much in that. And that's something that I had to learn, right? And in trial and error, because sometimes my wife would get frustrated with me and like, I can't do all of this myself. So
yeah, well, I made a decision to try to litter her life with small acts of kindness.
Yes, because it's important.
Yeah, because my life is so demanding at times. Yeah. So let me see if I can leave her notes and do things that give her little bursts of joy along the way.
Well, again, and I can't wait until they're. I hope you all are thinking about.
Praying. Oh, not thinking about. Trying about.
Well, good.
So I'm praying.
It is such a blessing.
I know it is.
Well, listen, I again, I've always called you my older brother, and that's not because of age, but because of how you just show up. And I know you have a brother. Tell us, what does brotherhood mean to you?
So I grew up with my biological brother, and then when I was 24, my dad informed my brother and I we had another brother,
Mm,
and that was a great odyssey for me to see. It was around the time I was going to Yale,
yeah,
and would eventually meet you. But it was a really great experience. Like, what's biology versus spirit?
yeah.
And look, we know you and I both are steeped in the generation before us, the civil rights generation, because we believe in this idea of brotherhood and sisterhood of humankind. And I think a lot about those kind of bonds. And I really worry that we are in a brotherhood crisis right now.
I agree.
Let's put women aside, but the boys are not all right.
Nope.
And we have all the data shows that we have less friends than we used to, less outlets for our emotional well-being outside of our spouses. We have a lot more anxiety, a lot more stress, and the idea of masculinity. I hate when people say toxic masculinity. I don't think masculinity is toxic. Toxicity is toxicity, but we see that there are entire worlds out there that try to capture men into cycles that are often very hateful and where they take their pain and often environments where they feel seen and validated for their pain. That we ask so much of men to be the provider, to be strong, but the challenge is with our economy the way it is, with I think a lot of this structural problems that don't support families
Mhm.
here. I think there's just a very tough world out there that men are facing, particularly young men right now, supercharged in its badness because of the internet and because of those online forums that often masquerade as community, but really they're just deepening disaffection. And so I'm in one of my whole chapters about in the book I have, it's about 10 different virtues, and one of them is the virtue of community,
Yeah.
where it talks about connection and why we need to be far more intentional in creating and very deliberately the community. And I talk about my own mental health struggles when I was around the turn of the century, where I didn't even have the words to express why I was struggling so much, and how it manifested in me doing one of the stupider things I've ever done, which is getting into a very public fight with the then mayor of the city, Sharp
Oh,
James.
yeah.
And so I just think that we have to address this crisis, and that we have to create relationships where you can call somebody and somebody will be there for you. And I just get very vulnerable. On the trip down here, I'm in the airport, and a friend of mine had called me last Saturday, called me and like I never have gotten a text like them. He says, it's an emergency, call me. So I call him up late Saturday night, and he tells me that he had just been feeling a little fatigued. He went to the
Mhm.
doctor over Friday and Saturday, and the tests concluded that he had a very aggressive form of cancer, and they told him you have a 5% chance of making it.
Jesus.
So he wept with me on the phone. I got very emotional. He literally said, like, I have to tell my daughter tomorrow,
Yeah.
and texted him for a few days. And so here I am on a Friday getting ready to come down here. And, I guess I still haven't settled with it, but I called his number, um, and got his wife. His wife told me he passed away that quickly.
Oh, God.
So I'm in the
I'm
airport,
so sorry
and now I'm
for it.
starting to cry,
Yeah.
like, and the wife is just like beside herself with emotion. And I call Alexis first,
Yep.
and she talks to me for a while. But then I just called a buddy of mine who I've never called in a crisis. I don't think
Yeah.
he's ever heard me cry. And it was amazing just to have a guy to
Yep.
talk to,
Yep.
because he was another guy that was our peer, and
Yep.
we were all in our 50s, and to have a buddy die so unexpectedly, it's like me calling you up and
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
and then just die. And there was something about having a network to lean on, and people that I know I could call you
Yep.
like that, just to be there for you. And I know we talk about big politics. I know your podcast, you talk about
Yep.
these big issues, but I can't tell you the importance of cultivating circles of community around you. And the pandemic, I really got that when I was isolated and alone in Newark, alone in this place. And I said, you know what? Let me be intentional. I started a book club over here with a group of people. I studied with I have 2 Jewish friends, Torah. To this day, every Friday, I'm a Christian boy who studies Torah, which makes Alexis laugh because she's Jewish, that like God was almost preparing me for you to know my faith. But I found it great for me knowing the Old Testament. I started with my family, my cousins. We started something. We pulled in a couple of my friends, the security detail I have right now. We've known each other since 2006, probably actually before that. And so he's in on that. So I just try to be so much more intentional because the big fights, the big battles are always going to be there. Yeah. What makes life sustainable to the storms, it's why trees that are alone don't fare as well as trees that are in a forest when it comes to severe winds, when their roots can interlock together. And that's what I hope I can be a man to say to other young men, prepare for the storm now. You think getting together and laughing and playing poker or reading a book together, that's all the data shows that lowers your all-cause morbidity, increases the length of your life if you have a community beyond your immediate family that's there for you in good times and bad.
I think that advice is so important, and I think what COVID did was it amplified the loneliness crisis, that a lot of folks had been experiencing, and it made it worse.
Right.
And it's a huge crisis, and I see it particularly with Black men right now.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that you were talking about and addressing it. And I think it's important for us to address even the mental health crisis, what anxiety and depression. You know, when my grandmother passed away this year, I mean, Cory, that hit me so hard. It just, I mean, it still hits me. Over the holidays, it was something I was still struggling with, because I thought about all of the things that we used to do together. When she would make these fruit cakes and how she would get these big like wash tubs and make the fruit cake, and I would help her as a kid, and then she'd take these big bottles of wine and pour all in the fruit cakes, and then it would soak all in, and then she'd wrap it up, and then she'd put it in the closet.
In the closet,
it would sit in the closet all wrapped up for like a week or so. She said so that the wine can seep all the way through. But just thinking about her and that was my first Christmas not having her was really, really, really difficult. But that is when it's so important to be able to have a family network. It's important to have friends who you can call and just chat with to bring you out of those moments.
But this now gets us into policy and politics, because first of all, Black men don't ask for help enough.
No.
And don't seek it.
No.
And there's something like, it seems masculine to be stoic and to keep all that in when it is destructive internally.
It is.
More than diet, stressors are what shorten life.
And not even for them individually, but for their community, for their families, for their relationships.
Yes. Yeah, for the health of families.
Yes.
But then you get to the point that Black men who want to reach out, finding mental health supports. I mean, I was stunned in my town halls here while I've been in South Carolina that the same thing happened to me when I did town halls when I was running for president. Every town hall, people brought up mental health crises and how hard it was for them to find health. And so when you defund Medicaid, when you defund the Affordable Care Act, and you make healthcare in general more hard to get, you put people who might even want to reach out and get mental health care, you make it something that only the wealthy can afford. And somebody in the town hall this time said that 75% of South Carolina's mental health clinicians do not take insurance, don't even take insurance. Yes. So now you've got the other 25% getting everybody else. And then to find culturally competent, where are the pipelines of Black folks to be therapists? Because a lot of times people want to sit down with somebody
who can relate to them.
Yes. And so this is a compounding crisis because we as a society haven't done the policy stuffs that create that beloved community. And the stressors on families, childcare is so expensive. Affordable childcare in most states is more than the cost of tuition at the state college.
Senior care.
How about this one? you and I are that age where we're taking care of our parents and taking care of our children.
Yep.
And so now you have a situation where you think you have a middle-class existence, you and your wife together making six figures, but that's not enough to be trying to provide health care for children and parents. It's not enough to pay the cost of your own health care. I have had more conversations with New Jerseyans of recent who have said to me they face this tragedy of having to decide which parent, if at all, can keep health insurance so they can keep their children covered. And so we say, I do not understand how a Republican can say in straight face, we are the pro-life family values party. When you make healthcare so expensive, when you make childcare so expensive, when you're against paid family leave, when you're against funding for maternal mortality, all those things are not pro-life and they're not pro-family. American families now have more of a difficulty meeting the minimum basic needs for those families to thrive. We should create a democracy and a nation that is pro-family and pro-life. And what I mean by that is elevating the things people need for life, like health care, like not filling our food systems with toxins or air with pollution, which Trump is allowing polluters to pollute more, that is supporting families. It's none of my damn business why somebody gets an abortion, but the number one reason presented for it is the economic impact. And the chance of you plunging into poverty if you decide to have a child is 200% greater if you choose to have that child, because this country has the lowest child allowances. We tried to get the child tax credit permanent, as you know, and we could not. We make it more difficult in America compared to our peer nations just to try to afford having a child. As our birth rate goes down, and I hear all these people on the right say families should have more babies, then create an environment that supports those family decisions and doesn't put so much stress that often turns into mental stress. It often has manifests itself in ways that people call toxic, as opposed to supporting the strength of families.
Cory, you mentioned that we've tried to do a lot of things in terms of healthcare. We've tried to do a lot of things in terms of childcare. We tried to do a lot of things in terms of increasing the minimum wage, particularly during the first early days of the Biden administration. We got a lot done.
Yes.
But there was still a number of things that we wanted to get done that we couldn't. And really, oftentimes, the frustration came from people's frustration with the Senate.
Yes.
And then sometimes with the Senate Democratic Caucus.
Yes.
So, and just recently, I think middle part of last year, you exhibited a bit of frustration with your own caucus.
Oh, I've got a lot of frustration with Democrats writ large.
Yes.
But let's be particular to the Senate. You and I both know we were one vote short in the Senate because we didn't get all the Democrats in the Senate. We were one vote short of making the child tax credit permanent. And that's like jargony stuff. It would have literally meant making permanent the biggest middle-class tax cut in my lifetime, thousands of more dollars for the average family in New Jersey at a time that costs have been going up, and it cut child poverty in half. And which showed me once and for all that child poverty in America is not an inevitability, it's a policy choice.
That's exactly right.
So the moral obscenity, and they looked at brain studies for that 1 year and saw, because kids that live in poverty have this constant fear, cortisol, that erodes the normal growth of their brains and brain development. And so it is violence. Child poverty is violence. And we were one vote short. Of course we should be frustrated. Let me give you another thing we were one vote short of: reversing Trump's first big, beautiful bill in his first term that gutted middle class and working class people's resources to give tax cuts to the billionaires. We could have reversed and not have this prolific deficit that Trump is the greatest deficit creator in the history of our country. And it's weird. He created so much more debt for Americans, and yet he is also has the record for making the most money while you're president because he's grifting
along with his kids.
His kids, right. So he has made more money than the last 30 presidents combined in 1 year in office than they did in their entire times collectively in office because he is doing so much corruption overseas, opening up these crypto coin schemes in which Chinese and Arab wealth, which is pouring it in, as he's then having to make decisions about military partnerships, sale of military weapons. Nobody wants their president to have their own personal bag open, taking millions and then deciding, okay, you can get this once classified military jet. It's so blatantly corrupt, and yet the Republicans in the Senate say nothing or don't have any kind of hearings or oversight over it. It's something fancy in the Constitution called the Emoluments Clause, which basically means that presidents can't make money from foreign powers while they're in office. He is violating that as plain as day.
Well, and that's, I think, part of the frustration that the American people have is they say, well, we hear that you all say that all of these things are happening. Why can't we do anything about it?
Well, I listened to Jaime today speak, and you said it plain.
Yeah.
It is about power.
Yeah.
It is about power. And Maya Angelou's right. The most common way people give up their power is not realizing they have it in the first place. Like, so here we are in South Carolina, and it is so ironic to me that you all don't get beat in your elections. We lose them.
Yeah, we lose them.
And we lose them because we don't show up.
That's it.
And I know it's a big burden to bear to have people go from a 60% voter turnout to an 85% voter turnout. But if 85% of the people who are registered Democrats showed up, you would win every single election.
I'd be in the Senate right now.
You'd be my brother.
Yes.
They'd be like calling me Jaime. I was we honeymooned in New Zealand. I'm sitting in the waiting round, taking a plane from Auckland to the North Island, and this guy with a thick New Zealand, he goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here. Please, Hakeem Jeffries, can I take a picture of you?" And I'm like, "Sir, I'm not Hakeem Jeffries." He goes, "You're not? You look so much like him." I go, I've heard that before. I've heard that before. But that pains me.
Yeah.
And often it's the very same people who will say to me, my vote doesn't matter, that nothing changes. That's because you don't make it change.
Yep.
And so, and then they're designing systems when they start taking control of the South Carolina State House and the governor's house. And then they said what Donald Trump's doing right now with midterm redistricting, they changed the rules of the game to then make it even harder for people to vote. So I think, Martin Luther King said it best. What we have to repent for is not just the vitriolic words and violent actions of the bad people.
Appalling silence of the good people.
Appalling silence and inaction of the good people. So I just, again, we're coming into another election season now. Dear God, folk, if you don't think your your vote matters, Kamala Harris got 49.3% of the vote. Donald Trump got 49.7% of the vote. A very small amount of Americans who did not participate determined the outcome of that election. Not the people who turned out, the people who didn't.
Yep, stayed home.
And I have a whole bunch of people in my state who now switch back because they saw what the consequences of their vote were.
Yeah.
And whatever you want to say about Kamala Harris, she should get a job as a psychic because she predicted exactly the kind of thing. I go back and listen to some of her speeches, which she told people what would happen if he got elected.
Well, she and Hillary could both be the Nostradamus because Hillary did the same thing.
Yes.
Right? And
yes. Well, Hillary said, if you all don't elect me president, we will lose
the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court, lose the women's right, reproductive freedoms. I mean, she just listed it chapter and verse. And Donald Trump put 3 people. We may never see a court again in our lifetime as we are in our 50s. Let's pray to the Lord that we do. And I'm not praying for anything bad to happen to anybody on those lifetime appointments. But folks don't understand. You said it in your speech today. It is about power.
Yeah.
It is about power. And what did Frederick Douglass say? Power concedes nothing without a demand. And that demand isn't your words, it's your vote.
Speaking of the Senate, do you think we need to change anything in the Senate right now?
I know what you're hitting at.
Not the Senate, the Supreme Court, and then I'm going to go back to the Senate.
Well, I have a bill that would do what I think is justice to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Very simple. Right now, it's this random thing that you don't know when somebody's going to pass away.
Yep.
So one president might get 3, another president might get none appointments to the Supreme Court. I think that's crazy. We should put them on terms, make them long, make them 18 years. But the reality is we could make it so that every president you elect, when you elect that president,
they get
one. Or one every 2 years, depending on what you make the cycles of their terms. That way people know exactly what they're, because I had a lot of people tell me, Susan Collins, Republican, said, I'm a pro-choice person. Don't worry about it. There won't be any. No, I'm sorry. I had people tell me, oh no, Roe v. Wade won't go anywhere. My rights, my fundamental rights to control my body won't go. Now there are states in which they could put a bounty out for you if you go to, they're trying to say that you can't go to another state and have an abortion.
There's some Supreme Court justices who lied to you all, who said, I believe in stare decisis.
Right.
And went straight out of the confirmation hearings.
Yes.
And for those folks basically saying the established law, that they support whatever is the established law and whatever the court had decided in the past, they will stand by it.
It's about power, who's willing to do what is necessary to obtain it through the democratic system, and then are you going to use it right?
Yeah.
And right now I worry because a lot of the problems is we're looking left, right. I think we should be looking top, bottom because a very small group of billionaires, remember, Donald Trump, 44% of the money spent on his election came from 10 people. Think about that for a second. 10 people accounted for 44% of the money spent on his election. What do they get for their money? Now, they may not be as concerned about Roe v. Wade, but they are concerned about giving corporations passes on the things that come before the Supreme Court, the ability to merge with other companies and make billions and billions of more. So I spent $100 million on this election, but I get to make $1 billion because I just got a little tax exemption so that now I pay less in taxes than the average teacher does as a corporation. Billionaires now, many of them pay effective tax rates of 3, 4, 5, 6%. Ask the military a veteran or the person in the military what percentage of their money they're paying in taxes. So we have an inherently unfair system that benefits the most wealthy of the wealthy, all because it's designed that way. People says Washington doesn't work. It works by design because we have a Supreme Court that passed Citizens United that opened up the floodgates. I just came from North Carolina helping Roy Cooper get into the Senate, and he told me something, it was staggering to me about their prediction of how many billions of dollars will be spent on one Senate race. A Senate race, more than $1 billion is going to be spent. And so you literally could spend $100,000 a day as an American, $100,000 a day, and it would take you 27 years to spend $1 billion.
Wow.
And you wouldn't be able to spend it all because of the interest and the like. So we have forces now in our country that are so powerful. And by the way, they don't even have to spend money anymore. You want to know why some Republican senators didn't say the obvious, like Hegseth is unqualified for the job, didn't say the obvious, like it's wrong to tweet out, classify, or signal out, classify, is because you don't even have to spend the money. If you're a billionaire now, you could just call him up, and people have made those phone calls.
Just a threat.
Just threaten. If you do not do this, I will spend $20 million in a primary against you. And if you're worth $10 billion, that's like me giving you a $10 bill.
Yeah.
And so that to me is insane that we are allowing that level of corruption. And money rains into Washington on both sides of the aisle. Yeah. Let me tell you something right now. One of the reasons why our military is so expensive is not because we get a return on the dollars we invest in our military. We have the biggest military in the world in terms of capabilities, but we have a mushrooming budget. John McCain used to always tell me, we spend too much money because of all the corruption built in, of all these things baked into the system. The military hasn't passed an audit in years. Duplication. Because people on both sides of the aisle.
No, listen.
And this is why I don't take corporate PAC money.
Yeah.
I want to end this system that is, to me, so corrupt. And this is all about who holds power. So the reason why I am excited about this is not to stop Trump. That's one thing I want. That's, to me, the floor.
Yep.
the Democratic Party, I think, has one more chance to get the reins of power and then change a system that is fundamentally corrupted against the average worker. And what I would like to see us start with is big, bold changes to our system. So first is to end this system of campaign finance once and for all.
I agree.
Corporations are not people. Billionaires should not be able to spend unlimited money on elections because that drowns out free speech and allows them to change the rules, rig the rules where they can be the only ones heard, as we see with Donald Trump's last election. That's the first thing. Number two is this tax code that allows I have dear friends who manage hedge funds. They work hard for their money. I want them to be, I'm one of these people that believes in great wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you invent something that transforms my life, I hope you become a wealthy person. Just pay a fair tax rate.
Pay your fair share. Yep.
Pay a fair tax rate. So you should not be in a situation in America where just because you make your money through capital gains, that the person that goes out, sweats every day, building homes, is paying a higher percentage of tax. Why is sweat earnings taxed at a higher level than people who have passive income through their stock portfolios growing? That's wrong. We should create an effective tax rate that's fair. And what I want to do, my vision, and I'm going to release a whole bunch of things. This is what I want. I want every Democrat who wants to talk about the future to start putting out a vision that is so compelling that people know, yeah, I'm voting against this person, but this is why I'm voting for the Democrats, because I see, as FDR would say, a new deal.
Yeah.
Somebody has redeemed the dream. I believe again in America. If you will do those 10 things to this candidate and show me that you have the power to do them. So you know one thing we'd have the power to do, and we don't even need 60 votes in the Senate to do it, would be to say, you know what, we're going to create a new tax code where everybody's paying a fair share. There's no one of these exceptions for carry, all this, but the first $70,000 of earnings, whether you make $500,000 a year or whether you make $80,000, your first $70,000, no income tax.
That'd be great. That's transformative right there.
It would raise for a struggling middle-class family, like a cop and a teacher making $100,000, they would get thousands of more dollars to be able to afford childcare, to be able to afford, it would shift the floor of our country right now a lot higher.
I had someone who suggested the other day that small businesses, if you're a small business that makes under this amount of money, you pay no taxes. It is stuff like that.
Because we should be, again, a country about entrepreneurialism. What we are is not. We favor longstanding, powerful incumbents over people who are really risking their capital. So just imagine this: if you and I if people said to Booker Harrison, what's a vision for the Democratic Party? I don't hear that enough right now.
No.
I want us not just to be about what we're against. I want to be about what we're for. So in about a month or so, I'm announcing my re-election in the state of New Jersey. And what I'm going to do to New Jersey is I'm going to say, here's my record. No senator in 6-year periods brought more money back home than I ever. I'm going to say, I hope I've earned your reelection, but I'm also going to tell you that I'm looking to be a leader, not just in the Senate for the Democratic Party of New Jersey and our nation. I want this party that I'm dissatisfied with to have a renewed vision for the future that could excite people in the same way that FDR, who put a whole new vision, a revolutionary vision out there where he changed the bargain, he changed the deal. That's what we need to be about. And that's how we get back that disgruntled Republican voter who doesn't think either side, who put their faith in Trump because they believed that this was going to be the change I want. You're going to lower my costs. You're going to lower my food prices. You're going to lower my gas price. Well, he lied to those people. He's more interested in giving $20 billion to Argentina than he is to helping people here at home. But okay, I'm sour on the Republicans. I know what I'm voting against. But dear God, show us what you're for.
One of the things I would encourage you, Cory, and nobody has really done this, is we need a poverty tour. We need somebody to conduct a poverty tour to showcase what poverty looks like in this country.
Yeah.
And poverty is not restricted to one race. It is not restricted to one region. I mean, it's in rural areas and urban areas, and it is as diverse as the nation itself. And we talk about the middle class all the time, but nobody talks about poor working people in this country. And I think that's, for our party, that should be a game changer. We need somebody who could be a champion on that. So I hope you incorporate something on poverty in this vision that you're going to roll out. I thought you were going to say, and one of our listeners said, well, ask Cory Booker, why isn't he the Democratic leader in the Senate? I don't want to get you in trouble, but you know, a lot of folks are wondering that it's time for some change, and
it is. Look, it is time for new leadership in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I love the greatest generation.
Yeah.
They you know, my grandparents had victory gardens. My grandfather built bombers for World War II. I love the baby boomers. That's the civil rights generation. That's the women's rights generation. X-Geners, millennials, what is our story going to be?
Yeah.
And so this is the last baby boomer head of the Senate on both parties, last baby boomer president we will ever have. There is a generational shift going on, and a torch is being passed. Greats are leaving, from John Lewis, who's called home, to other people retiring, like Dick Durbin in the Senate. And so I'm just saying we need to step up in leading. But leading isn't just about, oh, it's my turn. Leading demands a vision.
The vision.
It demands a vision. And so I'm calling all visionaries, calling all dreamers. Tell me what your vision. Let's get into a competition in the Senate.
Yeah.
Let's get into a competition for the 28 nominations. Let's get into a competition in state houses about who are we and what do we stand for and what is our vision for America. And you might find a lot of independents and Republicans that say, if you do that, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm on board. And that's what I want. I want our next elections to be wave elections, tsunamis, because the Democratic Party finally has gotten clarity on what they stand for. Because a lot of people right now have questions.
Yeah.
They got questions.
Well, another question that I have is, you've been to New Hampshire.
Yep.
You're now here in South Carolina. Will you be going to Nevada? I know your mom lives in Nevada.
My mom lives in Nevada. I'll be out there for Valentine's Day with a box of chocolates.
So the big question on people's lips are, yes, we know you're going to run for re-election and in New Jersey, and you have earned to be re-elected because of the hard work that you do for those folks. 2020, I know we got to get through 2026, but 2028 is right around the corner.
You're too responsible of a leader to ask me a question like that.
I'm going to ask
don't make me drop the ball
I'm not
by reaching for another ball.
I'm not asking for any
what are you going to say to New Jersey? You know, New Jersey's listening to this podcast.
and you know what I know? The folks in Jersey would love to have a president who's from New Jersey.
They'd love to have Bruce Springsteen play at inauguration.
Exactly. So I'm not asking for any announcements.
I am telling you right now, I'm not even coy about these things. I'm running for re-election. I have not dismissed the idea of running for president again in 2028.
That's all we wanted to know. That's all we wanted to know.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that we do on the show is a very special award. I don't know if your staff have told you about this, but we award this. It can go sometimes to an individual. It can go to a group of people, or just this concept. Now, we had Vice President Harris on the show recently in December, and she had fun with the award, but she did not give me a person. So I'm asking you, my dear brother, my friend.
Okay.
This award is called the Sit Your Ass Down Award.
Okay, hold on. SYAD. SAD.
Yeah.
It's a SYAD.
It's a SYAD award. SYAD award.
A SYAD award.
So, Cory Booker.
Yes, sir.
This week,
yes,
at our table.
Yes.
Who is your recipient for the Sit Your Ass Down?
I mean, I could give a whole bunch of folks.
I know.
That need to sit down.
But they got to sit their ass down.
Okay.
Put a little southern.
My 85-year-old mother might listen to this. Oh, come on.
Listen, my in-laws listen to this, and they already told me that you need to make your and my mom, you need to make your show more PG. But this is the only time. I mean,
look, I'll name names right now. There are ICE agents that are being hired.
Yeah.
That don't receive training, that they find this out too late, that they have affiliations with hate groups, that, you know, they went down from 5 months to just a matter of weeks, like 47 days. They're pulling people away from the FBI, the ATF, who are doing really important work for us to keep us safe. So they're flooding the zone with thousands and thousands. Imagine if we had that many people chasing down illegal gun runners or going after dangerous criminals like the FBI investigates. So that's a class of people, unqualified, reckless, law-breaking people who are in masks. who are running out and violating not just human decency, but actually doing things to violate law. We've all seen videos of kicking people who've already been restrained in the face. But the person responsible for that is Kristi Noem. So I'm telling her to sit down too. Please tell her to sit down because she's lying. You have this woman, good, get killed before they even know the facts. They're trying to malign her, denigrate her, demean her, before her responsibility is to find the objective truth, to investigate officers. Because, I know this from running a police department. Overwhelming of my police officers, 99.9%. But if I got 1,000 officers, 1% is 100 officers.
Yeah.
Well, let's say it's just 10, a small faction. But there are, in any group of people, teachers, politicians, you're going to get people that are violating the law or people that are not following through on their training. And there needs to be systems of accountability. There is no accountability. She has created no systems of accountability. She's out of control and has created conditions in which people are going to get hurt. So she needs to sit down, and people who violate human rights, people who violate the civil rights of America, people who are arresting Americans, dragging them out of their homes or off the streets, who are stopping people just because of the color of their skin, or they might speak with an accent. I thought the Supreme Court said you can't judge.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, can't do that. But now they did. They said, okay, you can't use race for anything positive, but you can use it if you're going to go after to arrest people. You can't pull over people just because of their color of their skin. Like, they can't have it both ways. So again, these folks should sit down. Heck, members of the Supreme Court should sit down. Don't do it now, though. While Donald Trump could replace you.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap this.
Did I give you enough people? Because I can keep going.
Well, I think Kristi Noem should get a permanent sit your ass down. When you shoot your family dog, you deserve to have a permanent sit your ass down.
Don't get me started. You know what? I'm an animal lover.
Yeah. So, well, listen, we're going to wrap up.
You know what's crazy here is you and I too are independent, free men in America. But I see all these people around you just telling you wrap it up.
Oh,
wrap it
I know.
Up. They're like telling you. Even my people are telling you to wrap it up.
Like you got.
Oh, he says I got to go to an airport.
You got to go. You got to go to the airport. I don't want you.
I got to get back to Jersey.
Quick question: 2026? Do we win back the Senate?
Yes.
What's your path?
Alaska,
Mary Peltola,
North Carolina, Ohio,
Cooper, Sherrod Brown.
Don't sleep on Texas.
Yep, Texas. We don't know what happened in Texas.
Don't sleep on Iowa.
And
my friend, she's somebody I've worked with on a lot of things. I think Susan Collins can have a really serious challenge in Maine as well.
Yeah, Janet Mills.
You have a lot of more states that are in play all of a sudden because we seem to be winning in places that we've never won before. So if you have a 7, 10, 15-point wave, that brings a lot more states into play.
Cory, my theory is that 2026 is an echo of 2006. If you take a look at 2006, similar dynamics. Coming off an 2004 race in which we got our teeth kicked in.
Yes.
Newspapers writing that Democratic Party is dead. And then we won the House that year in the ruby red states. And we took back the U.S. Senate. And the interesting thing is, I think Begich, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we won in Alaska that year with Begich and had that Democratic. Very similar dynamics.
Yes.
And history is funny that way, that it's often repeats itself.
But in honor of King, what did he say? Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability. Nope. Got to struggle for it.
And we got to work to make this happen. It's not going to happen. Cory Booker, you will always be my brother and my friend. It is so great to have you at our table.
Thank you, my brother. I love you.
Love you too,
much.
man.
Yeah.
Love you too, man. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. To be the first to know who will be at our table next, be sure to subscribe to our Substack on jamieharrison.substack.com. At Our Table with Jamie Harrison is a production of Vision Blue Media. Our founding executive producers are Jason Hyder and Jamie Harrison. Our producer is Kyle Kelly. Our content consultants are Ernie Grigg and Clay Middleton. Our digital communications are led by Lauren Brown. Ines Smolansky provides production legal. Title sequence by Tom Hunt. Our theme song, Blonde Gone, is written by Dewey and published by Alibi Music Library. This episode was recorded at As Told by Studio in Columbia, South Carolina, and engineered by Bill Grant. Very special thanks to Senator Cory Booker and his team. I'm Jaime Harrison, and I look forward to another conversation at our table.